Okie dokie, here we go. This is my opinion on The Iron King, Book 1 of the Iron Fae series by Julie Kagawa. So, this is the story of Megan, your average 16-year-old girl who turns out is not so average for a 16-year-old. Go figure! So her whole thing, okay, synopsis time. It starts out, it's Julie's 16th birthday, or Megan's 16th birthday. She's very excited because, it's sweet 16. And, you get a look into her home life where she's got her mom, her stepdad, and her little brother, who her little brother has like an imaginary friend who's like, oh, the bunny said it's this little bunny rabbit. He's like, oh, you can see us and blah blah blah. And she goes to school where you meet her best friend Robbie, who's kind of this punk trickster kid. Get a normal day of the life for her at school. She starts seeing things that shouldn't really be there, odd things. And then she goes home and her brother's gone psycho. And it ends up getting revealed that her brother is a changeling, of course. And Robbie shows up and you find out that his name is not really Robbie, he's Puck from A Midsummer's Night's Dream. And this is her crash course into, yeah, guess what? There's fairies. And you're a half fae. And so she's just like, what? And he's like, well, if you want, we can go into the fairy realm to get your brother back. But yeah, I'm Puck, so he's still kind of a trickster, but he seems to genuinely like her. So he's like, okay, we can go get your brother back. She's like, okay, cool. And he's like, hey, but fair warning, once you start seeing fae, you can never unsee them. She's like, it's fine, whatever. I want to go get my brother back. So they go into the fairy realm where you find out there are two courts. There is the Summer Fae ruled by Oberyn and Titania. Again, Midsummer's Night's Dream. And then there is the Winter Fae who are ruled by Queen Mab. Again, she pops up, I think, I know she's referenced in Romeo and Juliet. I don't know if she pops up majorly anywhere else, but you find out that fairies are basically functionally immortal so long as there are poems and songs and tales written about them and people continue to retell these stories. They will live forever. So, all hunky-dory, they start going through the magical forest, but there's this guy who's hunting them, and Puck and Megan end up getting separated. She runs into this Cheshire cat guy who's like, oh, I'll help you in exchange for a favor. It's your typical fairies and favors and making deals with fae folk. Usually doesn't go well. But she ends up making it to the Seelie Court where she meets King Oberyn to find out that he is her father. Big surprise. And you find out that who she thought was her dad was not her dad. Her mom was apparently in an unhappy marriage. And then she was like, oh, Oberyn and her spent one night of passion together, and Megan was the result. So Megan also on top of this keeps going, oh, I kind of maybe, because her dad just disappeared, so she thinks that maybe he ended up in the Fae world, so she's like, oh, maybe I can find out about my dad and get my brother back. It's a minor thing in this. So she ends up spending a little bit of time in the court. It kind of sucks because she's a bastard. And that was the thing, like Titania, she treats Megan like shit because, duh, she's a bastard. Queen doesn't like her. And her time in the fairy court is kind of meh. She mostly just spends it just living as a servant. But there's this big party that's going to be happening because the Winter Fae are coming to have it's like this biannual peace talks that happens where the Winter Fae and the Summer Fae meet up. And of course, the guy that was hunting them is actually the youngest son of Queen Maeve, Prince Ash, one of the Winter Fae princes. Oh, also Puck is okay. He's back with Oberyn. And so they meet and it's all, ooh, he's so gorgeous and lovely, and they kind of have a little tete-a-tete, and she thinks that her brother is being held at the Winter Court, so she's just like, I need to get there. So they end up, their shit goes down in there, and the Winter Court is like, you guys did this, and the Summer Court are like, no, you did, we're gonna go to war, and she ends up escaping. They try to go to the Winter Court, they get close, but Ash is like, we don't have your brother, and it's like, what? And they end up finding out that her brother is being held by the Iron Fae, and it's like, who the hell are these guys? Because there's this corruption spreading through the fairyland that's like blighting and killing everything, because in this world it's traditional that iron and fairies do not mix. It's more of fairies and technology don't mix. So after some more shenaniganery on finding out how to kill, because they find out there's the Iron Fae King, and they have to go kill him and get her brother back. So they end up in New Orleans. Again, New Orleans is just always like a hot spot for paranormal stuff. I'm finding that more and more. So they go to New Orleans, they get the magical MacGuffin that can kill the king, and the price that they pay to get the knowledge on how to find this is that Megan has to give up one of her memories, a precious childhood memory, and you find out at the end of the book that was her father. So they get the magical MacGuffin, Puck gets hurt, and he is put out of action for the rest of the book. So Ash and Megan go to try and find the Iron King and slay him and get her brother back. During this, Ash and her are attracted to each other, and you find out that Ash has issues. Go figure. He had a lady love once, and she died in a hunting accident, pretty much between Puck and him and her. They were all buddies. Puck made a rash decision that got Ash's lady love killed, so Ash blames Puck, and he swore that he would have revenge on Puck, that he would avenge her death and kill Puck, and so once they swear an oath, they have to keep it, so I'm sure later down the road in this, there will be some tension between Ash and Puck. So anyway, they get to the Iron Fae lands, which is all nasty and corrupted and gross, and it's really doing bad things to Ash because he can't survive there because there's all this iron and ugh. So it's bad and it's nasty. They end up getting separated. Megan ends up meeting the old Iron Fae King, who says that I don't remember what his name is, but the whole way that Fae work in this is that they are basically the incarnations of human imagination, dreams, and desires. So the Iron Fae are basically all of the industrious dreams and imaginings of humans. So they have representations like the original Iron King was, I'm literally the embodiment of like the first forges, like the first time men started forging iron. He was that idea, that spark of inspiration come to life, and it's spread out through there where they run into a lieutenant whose name is like Virus, and that's what she is. She's like a computer virus. So anyway, she meets him. He's a mopey old bastard. She says basically, thank you, fuck you, goes to fight the Iron Fae King. Of course, he says, will you be my queen? Because she's half Fae, so iron doesn't affect her, but she still has all of the powers of a summer Fae because her daddy is the king. So he, take my hand and we will rule the world side by yada yada yada. Typical speech. She ends up killing him, saves Ash, saves her little brother. They go home. And then she's like, I'm going to live a normal life. Oh, but I kind of forgot that she made a deal with Ash that if Ash helped her, she would go back with him to the Winter Fae court. And she does. That's where the book ends. Cliffhanger for the next book. Yeah, so, I didn't particularly care for it. Again, it's a YA story. And the romance aspect of it with Ash is just so tacked on of like, oh yes, they're attracted to each other, but she's also 16, so yeah, kind of weird still because he's hundreds of years old, so bit of an age gap, a little bit. So yeah, and Megan, she was just kind of annoying, typical 16-year-old, very whiny, and I mean, it was the thing, like, even when she got to the Fae court, I don't know, she was bland. She wasn't as bad as Kitten, okay? Kitten was horrible from Finding My Pack. They said she was like 16, she was actually like 18 or 20, but she acted like a 12-year-old. At the very least, I believe that Megan is 16. Okay, she acts like a 16-year-old, which is fine. I also was not correct on the love triangle. Kind of. The love triangle does not rear its ugly head in this one. I think it is set up a little bit between Puck and Megan and Ash. But again, like I said, Puck gets taken out of commission for the end of this book. I read the synopses for the rest of these series, so I'm guessing he pops back up in there. But like I said, just from reading the synopses, it's a no contest love triangle because she's gonna end up with Ash because Puck is her best friend. I mean, he's just such a good friend. God, I can just feel the friend zoning. Like, it's so bad. So, yeah, again, the other thing that I didn't really like with this is how the Iron Fae are dealt with is it's the typical technology is bad. It's kind of like the American Gods thing, where it's the Fae are a similar concept. If something is believed in and worshipped, it comes to life. So it's kind of that same idea, but in this, it's the technology is all bad. Like the area that has been taken over by the Iron Fae is just polluted and gross and nasty, rusted metals and awful, just gross. And I was just like, okay, this is looking at the absolute worst side of technology. And it's true. There are a lot of downsides to technology, don't get me wrong, but there's also a lot of upsides to it. Hello, modern conveniences, the fact that I am able to talk at a screen and share my opinion all over the world. And it completely ignores the upsides of technology and it's just like, oh, the Iron Fae are the bad guys. I don't know. Maybe it changes its maybe the author takes a more nuanced approach to it in future books, but in this one it just treats the Iron Fae like a blight that are spreading across the fairy world and are going to just wipe everything out. And I mean, that is the plan of the villain in this, is just to wipe out all of the old Fae and take over the world, because of course. So yeah, it was just, I didn't, eh. And yeah, it was very I mean, it was even the getting her brother back more felt like find the MacGuffin was like her reason to become a Fae. I would have maybe liked it better if it was just something where she's at an age now, like 16, and the magics of puberty, she can no longer like hide from the world. Like she's starting to see things, and they can't keep giving her magical potions to block her sight or something. Something where she just gets naturally brought into the world and not find the MacGuffin. So, yeah, Iron Fate. I figured I wasn't really gonna like this one going into it because it's YA, and I'm just not that big of a fan of YA romance novels because usually it's just angsty. I will admit this wasn't angsty, but from reading the future synopses, it feels like it's gonna get pretty angsty. So yeah, I will not be continuing on with this series. If what I have described sounds interesting to you, please go give it a read. I listened to this at double speed because I knew I wouldn't be able to get through it if I listened to it at single speed. 11 hours, I was like, I can't do this for 11 hours, so I cut it down to about 5.5, which made it more tolerable for me. But yeah, not a fan. I give this one like 2.5 stars out of 5. Not a fan. Next up, we'll be picking out my next 3 books. I have not decided on any of them yet because I don't have any series that are being continued on right now. So very excited. Going to be starting all new books this time. So yes, that is my thoughts on The Iron King. Not a fan, but that's just my opinion. If you disagree, that's totally cool. Leave your comments down below if there's something you want me to take a crack at in the future, and I will talk to you guys in a little while.